Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. But the very next day, you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim and this is
Joy.
And I'd like to welcome everyone to our special Christmas episode. This is a bonus episode of the No Name Music Cast. We thought we'd give you a little treat on Christmas Eve and give you an extra episode for you to enjoy. So happy holidays, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, end of year celebration, solstice.
Happy whatever day of the week it is, whatever you celebrate.
However you choose to celebrate, or if you don't celebrate at all, we're welcoming you to this Christmas-themed episode.
Yay!
We did earlier in the year, we did a Christmas in July episode. Thought, well, let's just do it just a little bit different. So we are doing summer in December.
Yay!
Now, I understand for some people out in the world, especially those in the Southern Hemisphere, Australia, New Zealand, and we do have people who listen there, that is summertime. But, typically when you think of Christmas, you think of snow and you think of all that kind of stuff. So that's why we're going with summer in December for this Christmas-themed episode.
Every time you keep saying that, I just keep thinking, in the summertime when the weather is hot. Anyway. Might be a preview in the future, but every time we keep saying summertime, that's all that comes to mind.
Well, what we've done, this episode, we Joy and I normally pick a topic and we don't tell each other what it's going to be to have like a element of surprise. But we thought, this is an extra bonus episode for you on Christmas Eve. So we sort of got together and decided to do it jointly for a change. I don't think this is a theme that we're going to continue on with, as we do other episodes, but just for this bonus, we thought we'd do that.
Enjoy the pressure of the other person trying to think about whatever we've put up there.
Exactly. So what we've both done is if we've picked out some summer songs that we really enjoy. I picked all ones with summer in the title, and I left it open for Joy to interpret summer songs in any way that she wanted.
Summer, vacation, sun. That's kind of where mine sit.
Yeah. So between our two playlists, we're going to go backwards and forwards and discuss some of our favorite summer songs in this festive-themed episode. So
I feel like we're going to have to do a Spotify playlist for this one, Tim.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I'll let you do that because I'm not even set up for Spotify.
Well, I did the last one, so I will do this one.
Splendid. Okay. All right. So let's get this going. So let me hand it over to you, Joy. What's your first Christmas summer song that you'd like to talk about?
I have to make this one because I know you're familiar with it, but it's absolutely ridiculous. And it's LFO Summer Girls from 1999. I know you're familiar with that because that's the one that's like Abercrombie and Fish. I wish you didn't have one. Wish. And do you remember that one, Tim? We talked about it. You remember that? It's like 90s pop. And it is my favorite. It's the stupidest. I'm just going to say it's the stupidest song lyrics I've ever. We could have put that in our dumb song lyrics. Yeah,
because this came up in another episode, I remember. And I think after we finished recording, you sent me the link and I was like, oh, it's that one.
Yes. It's like one that I feel like everyone's kind of mentally blocked out if they weren't enveloped in it as a kid. Because it's like, Chinese food makes me sick. And that's why girls say bye for the summer. It's the dumbest. And I don't know that they really had any other songs. They're definitely one-hit wonders, two-hit wonders. But for me, they sum up the perfect summer because that's what I grew up on.
There we are. It encapsulated that feeling of a summer for you.
And I still know every lyric. If anybody was wondering, if you'd like me to sing it for you, send me a link later because I can't do it on here because we don't want to get copyrighted. That's what it comes down to. And actually, if you've never heard it, go listen to it. It's dumb, but it's fun and it's upbeat and it's happy.
Yeah,
and they're driving on mopeds.
it's a classic one-hit wonder type song affair. And like you say, I don't ever think they had a Night at the Opera style album after this.
I can't imagine. So here's the image. If you guys are trying to figure out what we're describing, the image of them is they're on mopeds going down like a boardwalk type scenario. He's definitely wearing like a wife beater t-shirt. He's got a blue hat on backwards, maybe a little Limp Bizkit-y kind of looking dude. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what the members of LFMO, that's not what I meant. LFO. What their members of the bands were. I have no clue what their names were. But anyway, it's that guy, girls in the back of his little moped, beeping down the boardwalk. That's what it is.
It's a classic video, and what a time to be alive in. What do you say, 1999?
It was 99. I was 9 years old, everybody.
No, I was about 50 or something in 1999.
The people who listen to this podcast are going to think Tim's 107. Tim is not 107. He's only 102.
There you go. We'll be 103 this year.
Yeah, I mean, he looks really great for 102. I mean, Hannah might have some things to say that I don't see, but he looks really great for 102. All right, Tim, what's your summer song?
Well, I'm bringing up a controversial choice, and I bring it up for its controversial reason. It's not really controversial, but we've
I feel like you do these things on purpose.
Yeah, we've spoken about this before, and this is not a song that I would ever really want to ever hear again, ever. However, I'm bringing it up just because for the visceral reaction that it will bring you.
Oh, no.
And that's Kid Rock's All Summer Long.
I'd rather die. Anger. You guys can't see me right now, but there's anger flowing from my eyes into a computer screen. So the one reason that even drives me more nuts than people realize is every time it comes on, I think Werewolves in London is coming, and it's never Werewolves in London. And that makes me more angry than the song itself.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned on here before, the problem is that like every cover band I've ever been in wants to play Sweet Home Alabama. And then when this came out, everyone was mashing up Sweet Home Alabama into All Summer Long. And it's like, oh, if Sweet Home Alabama wasn't bad enough, you've now got this on top. And it's like,
So I will say, Tim has his one song. We will not speak of it, but he knows the exact song I'm speaking of. Mm-hmm. My one song is Sweet Home Alabama. I would rather you hit me with a car than have to listen to it through. Okay, that might be extreme, but I cannot. My ears physically like well up and fall off my head when it comes on the radio. I hate that song. Physically, everything. So not only do I think Werewolves in London is coming, and I'm not even going to get started on my theories about Kid Rock, but then it's like it's the same chord progression, and Tim knows exactly what I'm talking about. That stupid chord progression that every guy in Southwest Virginia who owns a guitar thinks they know in Sweet Home Alabama. It's just that on repeat. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yeah, it's D, C, and G. They're all very simple first position chords. And like you say, everyone who has a guitar can probably play those chords. It's not an F, which is hard to play if you're in a
because you got to reach your finger.
Yeah, it's very easy to play. And it's just, I mean, we used to do that other song that you speak of and Sweet Home Alabama in Rough Justice. And we used to refer to it as the confectionery section. Okay,
to be fair, I don't even play the guitar regularly, but I did take guitar lessons. I took piano lessons. I could play a D, a C, and I could play these basics. And it's like D, 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 D. But then you go like an A minor. Like that's when people get thrown off. Like those are like those songs that are happy, uppy, everybody knows. I mean, I know that's hard, but if you throw an A minor or an F sharp or something, you have to move your fingers a little bit further. And that's not to insult people who are learning the guitar. Everybody's going to start somewhere, and maybe you only know 3 chords. I can't play the guitar to save my life. I learned 3 chords, and that's because I played the bass on one song in a band I was in. And I'm like not even a good bass player. I told you guys I can't play the drums to save my life. The only instrument I successfully played for a short amount of time was the piano. With that being said, it's not like I'm insulting anyone. If that's what you know, please keep learning. I don't want anybody to think me and Tim are insulting you, but it's like those chords that are very easy for the basic person to learn at a young age.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, when I first started playing guitar, I started with a lot of like classical like notes type thing, and then I got into those first position chords. And then once you've got those, the tricky one, as I said, is the F, because you have to bar the first fret, and to get that clean is hard. But once you've got the knack of it, it's easy enough.
Well, to be fair, if you're learning your scales on the piano, it's the same deal. The F sharp, F minor, all that stuff, that's when you actually have to go up to the black keys and those type things. And I can do those things in my sleep. So it's the same type thing. By the way, Tim, I have not. This is a no-name music class. We're only on the first song. This is a no-name music class. Hot topic. What am I thinking? Exclusive. That's the word.
That's the word you're looking for. Exclusive.
I have asked for a ukulele for Christmas.
Yay! Well, Joy, if you are lucky, tomorrow under the Christmas tree, you might find a ukulele.
Yay! So a ukulele is, I feel like, because I can do like some basic already chords. The ukulele, my hands are pretty long anyway. I don't know. I have a theory that I could pick up the ukulele. Don't put me behind a drum set if it's anything more than a 4 count, but maybe a ukulele. All right.
Well, I don't know whether you saw the Ian Husband's instant ukulele class he did. So it's the same as having a regular guitar with a capo at the 5th fret with the 2 bottom strings taken off. So
I'm going to have to go.
All of those chords, your C's, D's, and your G's and all that stuff work.
Well, that's good because that's the basis that I already know.
You are effectively at this point already a ukulele virtuoso.
Okay, well, let's not get started there. But I will. My problem is I lack the hand-eye. There's a reason why this Joy has an injury thing. It's like an ongoing joke in this. I lack what's known as hand-eye coordination, and you need that to play instruments that require multiple hands.
Yeah.
Therefore, ergo, why I will not play the drums anymore. All right, next song, Tim.
Okay, I think actually it's you. I think you're next.
It's me. Yes. So, yeah, because I started it. Mine's, I'm just going to sing it. Summer breeze makes you feel fun. So it's Summer Breeze, Stills and Croft, because let's be honest, it's fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. Well, now, of course, that is the original. But for me, and one I had on my list, is the Isley Brothers version of that.
Which I actually like a little better.
Yeah, the Isley Brothers version, it has that guitar line, which for you guitar nerds out there, was played on an H&H IC100 guitar head. Very famous sort of fuzzy, solid state, distorted guitar sound.
I can't wait till we do like an actual video one and people could see my eyes gloss over sometimes when Tim's talking. Like words, guitar. Yes, they have strings. No, I mean, I appreciate Tim's nerdiness and I know he loves it. But when it comes to like different types of guitars, I'm like, I don't know what these things mean.
Well, an H&H was a brand of guitar amplifier. An IC100 is a head, which is the amplifier piece. You know, you see like a Marshall stack on stage. You know, it's like 3 bits, 2 cabinets, and then the top bit is the amplifier.
Yes.
So that is the top bit, the amplifier. And, and most guitar amplifiers have vacuum tubes, valves in them. And for years, that's how it was done. And then in the 70s, they worked out how to do it with transistors. And obviously, transistors are more efficient, and you don't need replacing and all this kind of stuff. But people said that the transistor sound wasn't as good as the valve sound, the tube sound. But in certain camps, it was popular. And the sound that they get on Summer Breeze is a very clearly a transistorized amplifier distortion.
You know what's interesting to me, though? It's like, let's be honest, guys. Every time you change something, there's always going to be someone at the campus that's not better. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. Do we know if it was actually better, if it was worse, if the sound is different? I feel like there's so many people who are stuck in their nostalgic ways that regardless of however you changed it, they would have said, no, this valve is better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and do you know what's funny is that these days, the way that a lot of this stuff is done is through digital modeling. So it uses digital processing to make the sound. And all this digital equipment, like even the Zoom that I use, they are trying to emulate a tube amplifier using digital technology.
That makes sense. All right, so we apparently picked the same song. I just used the original. He used the secondary version. Do you have another song you'd like to speak of, Timothy?
Yeah, so I'd like to harken back to our new friends of the podcast who've listened in droves to our ABBA episode. And as we've mentioned previously, our ABBA episode has about 5 times as many listens as any other episode we've done. So if any of those folks are listening, new to the podcast, have found us through the episode, welcome. And as a result of that, I'd like to pick out the ABBA song, Summer Night City. Now, I don't think this is a single, and it doesn't appear on ABBA Gold. So for a lot of like casual ABBA fans who only have ABBA Gold or similar, you're not going to know that song. But they had another compilation that came out after ABBA Gold called ABBA The Hits Volume 2. And Summer Night City is on there. And it's an album track. That's on another one of their albums. But I don't know. I like that track. I think it's got a really good feel to it.
So I'm familiar with the song because it was on my potential list of summer songs. I actually looked at that one. Mm-hmm. And it was like probably like 78, 79, ABBA. It's adorable. It's like a kind of very classic summer song to me. Makes me feel summery.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've been to Sweden a number of times. I've been to Stockholm. I think it was in summer. And I don't know, it has that feel about it, you know. Yeah. Walking through the old town of Stockholm with its cobbled streets and listening to ABBA and then hopping in the Volvo and going down to IKEA. You know all the things that the Swedish folks do.
Somebody who's from Sweden is like, okay, well, that's a little direct. Anyway.
Well, I can tell you for a fact, one time in Sweden, I was borrowed a friend's Volvo. I got in the Volvo and cranked the car and the radio came on and it was playing ABBA and it was just like all the pieces fell into place.
But did you go to IKEA?
No, I have been to IKEA in Sweden, but not in a Volvo. I may have listened to ABBA.
Well, not every piece fell in place, Tim. You'd had to go to IKEA to really solidify that whole story. I mean, to be fair, the song literally starts out Summer Night City, waiting for the sunrise. It's very summery feeling, right?
Exactly. It's got a good summer feel about it.
And it talks about glitter. Glitter makes me think of summer. I don't know why that's related, but it does.
Well, it's the light twinkling off it. You're thinking of a beautiful summer's day as you see glitter and stuff.
You could be onto something. All right. I'm going to pick another one, Tim.
Okay.
And this is one I hope this is a favorite of mine. And I have a very funny story to back this one up. Blister in the Sun, the Violet Femmes.
I've heard that song. I'm familiar with the song. What's your story?
It's so dumb. So my claim to fame with this song is not anything I actually did. It's TV related. So Sabrina the Teenage Witch, for some reason, the episode I remember. So you know the Violet Femmes, I mean, they had some other hits, but I associate them as one-hit wonders, maybe 2-hit wonders, 3-hit wonders, right? Mm-hmm. There was an episode at the height of the Blister in the Sun song where they went to meet the Violet Femmes on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and they had to wait in line, and they waited for like 37 hours. And Sabrina's aunts wouldn't let her go alone, so they because they were witches, they made themselves into young children, and they went with them. Teenagers, not young children. And I remember somehow they end up back in the Violet Femmes room with them, like their hotel room afterwards, and somehow they do some type of spell, make them into like kids, and all that. She was thinking they were going to go back there and be groupies and like be all crazy teenagers, and because the spell where they made them into teenagers rubbed off on the Violet Femmes, they became like young and they wanted to eat cereal. And that's all they did. And for some reason, I can't hear this song without thinking of that Sabrina the Teenage Witch episode.
The whole memory of that whole escapade is burned in your brain when you hear it.
I mean, to be fair, that's ironic because, you know, it's literally talking about being a blister in the sun. Burned. Tim, good one there, bud. He'll be here all week. But yeah, no, I actually really like the song. But to be fair, for some reason, that's all I could think of.
Well, there you go. That's a good memory to have, and that's a good reason to have that as the perfect summer song.
I don't know. I don't even know if it was summer when they went to see them. But, I mean, Blister in the Sun is obviously about sun, so.
Sure. There you go.
And isn't his name like Gordon Gando or something, the lead singer? Gordon.
I think so. I'm not super familiar with the lineup, but it sounds about right.
I think his name is Gordon because you kept saying, I can't wait to see Gordon or something in the episode. And his last name's like G-A-N-O. If there's some heavy, hardcore Violent Femmes lovers out there that they've got 74 songs, I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar. They seem like one of those bands that could have like a cult following that I'm not familiar with.
Exactly. But there you go. All right, so I have the next summer song I have for you. Now, this is a twofer, the original and the cover. So the original is Don Henley, The Boys of Summer. And then there was a cover by the Ataris, The Boys of Summer. Now, they're pretty much similar. I mean, the Ataris has got a little bit more of a 90s alt-rock sound about it. But the main factor that makes them different, The Boys of Summer, Don Henley sings Out on the Road Today.
I saw a Deadhead sticker on a Cadillac.
Yeah, he saw a Deadhead sticker on a Cadillac. And in the Atari's version, he said, Out on the Road Today, I saw a Black Flag sticker on a Cadillac.
I was wondering if you were going to pick up on that because that was going to be a comment. Because that's the only thing I know that's different in the two songs. And to be fair, they both sound pretty similar singing-wise and overall. Yeah,
it's just that the Ataris has that kind of, that 90s alt-rock type sound. I mean, the Atari song is from 2003, but it has that more, that kind of sound about it. Now, I will say that my friend Chris, who plays in Flagger Hill with me, does have a Cadillac. And a few weeks ago, he said to me, I was coming in and listening to the radio, and he said, you know, one thing I've realized, he said, I don't have a Deadhead sticker on my Cadillac. And he's a fan of the Grateful Dead. So I bought up eBay exactly at that time, and I said, is this the one you want? And I've ordered it for him. It's actually coming. It's sitting in my car right now. So I'm going to give it to him tomorrow for Christmas, I think.
Yay! Yeah, I absolutely love that song. And I distinctly remember that I saw a Deadhead sticker in a Cadillac and the Black Flag sticker, which Atari is saying was a black, the Black Flag or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I was a big alternative pop, what some people would call pop punk type fan. And that, I mean, even though it's not 90s, early 2000s fell into that realm. I mean, I listened to All American Rejects, The Used, Good Charlotte, Bowling for Soup. I mean, in the last 3 years, I've seen Bowling for Soup and Good Charlotte in concert. I've talked to Tim about this. Mm-hmm. I saw The Used in concert. Like, I'm all about that kind of anything from the older, like some people would say The Used and Good Charlotte are different, but they're not. Even though their one's much harder than the other one, they were all in that same realm. Yeah. So I was big into that kind of thing. So for me, I love a song. Yeah. Both versions, really.
Yeah, and I think the if I sometimes will, if I'm going to listen to one of those two songs, I often will pick out the Atari's version because it's kind of a little bit more up tempo.
It is. It's kind of funner in a way. And to be honest, it's not a song like I have strong reservation about. I only want to hear the original. Like, I don't really care.
No, really. It's a good song, though.
Yeah, both are good. And I mean, to be fair, the original is where they came from. So we got to give them tribute, too. But good choice, Tim. I like it.
Thank you. All right. So what do you have as the next one on your Christmas summer list?
So this is a favorite. And if you've never heard this song, I hope you go out. I feel like this is a song you don't know, but you know, like we talked about in the last episode a few times with the Top of the Pops, Sunshine Superman Donovan.
Yeah, that's a good song. You can't go wrong with a bit of Donovan.
Well, it's very kind of pre-Jimmy Page, Zed Zeppelin kind of feel guitar, and it's the psychedelic pop kind of feel. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I love Donovan. I've listened to their whole catalog as a whole. That's a band that I'm really into. But Sunshine Superman is probably one of their biggest hits. And if you like 60s psychedelic rock with an R, everyone. And I think they're Scottish. I could be wrong, but I want to say they're Scottish. That doesn't matter if they are, they aren't. But for some reason, I feel like they're Scottish. But for some reason, it has a very pre-Led Zeppelin kind of feel to me. But the guitar is very similar to maybe Jimmy Page or something.
Do you know, it wouldn't, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but it wouldn't surprise me if Jimmy Page actually played guitar on that, because before he was in Led Zeppelin, he was famous for being a session guitar player. And he played on all manner of stuff in sort of the early 60s. And that's where he cut his teeth in arrangement and production and all that stuff. And that's why the Led Zeppelin back catalogue is so well engineered and so well mixed and produced, because he has that wealth of experience of being a studio guy for all those years. And
I don't know this for sure, but maybe.
It is possible. And for our bingo, for our Christmas bingo card holders, Jimmy Page is from Heston, and Heston is basically in the London Borough of Hounslow. So there you go.
Well, to be fair, that's what it reminds me of. But I also like the 60s psychedelic kind of thing. Like I got into that for a while, and that's one of my genres that I really get into. But I don't know that. I mean, it's a Sunshine. I mean, you might not necessarily categorize it as a summer song, but I did.
Do you like Hurdy Gurdy Man as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I like Mellow Yellow, but I think of the Donovan catalog. I think Hurdy Gurdy Man is probably my favorite.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about Mellow Yellow in a while. That's one that I kind of think I got a little burnt of.
Yeah, because that's another one of those. If you go on an oldies station, that's one of their 10 in a loop songs.
And it's got the Mellow Yellow verse over and over again, so it feels like you've heard it 1,000 times when you're just listening to it once. Sorry, but it's true.
It is true.
But yeah, Sunshine Superman, you might not have think that's summer, but it's also upbeat and happy, which makes me think of summer. So, I mean, it does say sunshine breathe softly on my pillow today. So
there we go. Fantastic.
I took a stretch with that with Tim.
There we go.
All right, what's your song?
Okay, so this is a song where I have never seen the film. However, I have seen the stage show more than once. So I'm aware of the story. I know how it works, but I've never, ever seen the film. And that is from Grease, Summer Nights.
Okay, so I've seen the film, I've been in the show, and I've watched the Broadway play. So, I mean, to be fair, it's a great choice. And it's literally, but let's talk for a second about songs that didn't age well.
Yeah, that's got some interesting lyrical choices, which I think when they do junior productions, I think they change them.
So they have to kind of do a little rearranging. There's a part about did she put up a fight?
Yeah, it's we live in more progressive times now. We're more aware of such things, and I think, I think if a junior production of Grease probably has a slightly edited script these days.
To be fair, I've sang it, I love it, but in my head, I can't. I see it as an adult now, and I'm like, it's a little iffy. It's a little controversial.
Yeah, I mean, as iffy and controversial as it is, I mean, it's a statement of the time, it's a statement of the day. And I mean, I think if you're going to perform it now, you might want to edit it. But I mean, there's no point going back retrospectively and making edits to it, because it's just a statement of that time when it came out in 1978.
And to be fair, I've listened to it, I've sang it, I've performed it, I've been in it. I've done that part, but it's just, we've talked a little bit about that before, so I just want to make that point. And I love it. It's happy. It's upbeat. It's cute. It's telling a female and a male story, summer love, and you've got those high male vocals at the end that John Travolta does so well.
Exactly.
Which I love John Travolta. I'm going to be controversial, even though he's a little weird. Sometimes he can be very strange. I do know he flies planes, which is kind of cool, but personally he's strange. I realize he could be strange. But the new version of Hairspray, when he plays, so the mother of Hairspray is always traditionally played by a male. I don't know if you know that, Tim, or not, but that's common in Broadway. It's common in the stage show. It's common in the movies. It's always, even before it was a Broadway play where they just had the stage show or the movie, it wasn't even it's always a male. So when John Travolta did the mother on Hairspray, I mean, it is phenomenal. And the man had to wear a fat suit, the dancing, the singing, everything about it. I give John Travolta props when it comes to music because he's actually really talented.
Do you know, I think the only film I've seen John Travolta in is Swordfish.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say Saturday Night Fever, but okay.
I've never seen Saturday Night Fever.
I was tortured as a child and watched it more than I like to admit. Sorry, Mom.
I have the soundtrack. I've purchased the soundtrack multiple times. The soundtrack is
fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic. And it's got that 19-minute version of Disco Inferno on it. And it's got all that Bee Gees stuff on it. And Tavares and...
Midnight
that song, Bit of the Fifth. I mean, the soundtrack is perfect.
It's above and beyond soundtrack. It's probably one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. I will agree with you on that. But I've just watched and seen it a lot.
Well, I can tell you a fun fact, and I may have said this before, but I'm going to say it again. It's Christmas. I don't care. Do
what I want.
Saturday Night Fever soundtrack was the best-selling album in the world until Michael Jackson's Thriller came out.
Yep, and I agree with that, and I actually love it.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll watch Saturday Night Fever. I don't know if I will, but maybe I will.
I mean, it's the rags to riches. He comes to New York. He wants to be a superstar. He's a good dancer. He goes out on the disco scene. You could probably figure it out, really, Tim.
Rags, yeah, I get the idea.
So, I mean, it's not really like anything that extreme, but I absolutely love the soundtrack. And shocker, I'm going to reference Glee again. They did a Saturday Night Fever episode that was fantastic. And like, She Should Be Dancing, great song. I don't care what anybody says. They should be dancing. It's a great song. It's a great song. It's a great song. It's a great song. I love disco, so I'm just going to be a disco lover, so we don't have to get into it. But that episode's fantastic. All right, next song. I could talk about disco for the next 74 years.
Sure. Well, the next one is your pick.
Me. Okay. So this is one that I have specific feelings about, and maybe it's just me, but it's Under the Boardwalk by the Drifters, which came out in 1964. I've said beach music, Motown, and disco. If you haven't gotten that, and 90s pop, if you've gotten this from this podcast, I don't know what you're listening to. But I grew up with a family that went to a lot of beach music type concerts. I'm a chairman of the board, all these local bands that were known for doing really good beach music. My parents took me to beach music concerts. And I mean, Under the Boardwalk was a staple my entire life in those concerts. I know it's a little cliche, but I heard it on repeat and all of those things. So for me, it said summer because that's what I would hear.
Yeah, I can get it. And it has that kind of, even the lyrics sort of allude to summery things going on.
Well, boardwalk summer, out by the sun, we'll be having fun.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the lyrics. So to be fair, that's like, for me, beach music kind of sums up summer.
Exactly. So what's your thoughts on the Bruce Willis version of this, taken from his album, The Return of Bruno?
I'm just going to tell you the truth. I'm not a fan. I'm a drifter squirrel at heart. I like that.
I recently picked that album up in a thrift shop for 50 cents. I own a copy of The Return of Bruno.
I just don't think Bruce Willis should sing. Sorry. Don't come for me, Internet.
I think it's one of those things that, like, he was a famous film star. He had Hollywood in his hand. Everyone knew who he was. He's got money. He's got influence. And he probably played in a band at some point and then went, do you know what? I'm coming back. I'm going to record an album.
I'm going to come to his defense that a lot of people don't get this who've been outside of the music biz or outside of theater or anything. Most people who become actors are what's known as triple threats. That's the word I'm looking for. Triple threats. They usually can act, sing, and dance because when you're going to acting school or when you're developing an acting career, you typically have to take classes in music and dancing. Like, they go hand in hand. So a lot of actors who become singers and vice versa, the transition makes sense because they've had to study it in the past. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that before. So, like you say, when you're trained to be an actor, normally they want to teach you how to sing because you will need to project your voice, and then you're dancing because it
goes hand in hand.
It all goes hand in hand with that particular skill set.
And I minored in musical theater in college. Shocker to everyone who hasn't heard me say that a million times. You kind of have to learn all three things. Like, it's just, even though I didn't major in it, it's not like I'm out on Hollywood. Typically, if anyone studied that in their past, you get all three together. They don't just do one normally. So when people talk about, oh, this Disney star is now a singer, it's really not that far-fetched because they probably studied it all previously.
Sure. Absolutely.
All right, Tim, what's your song choice?
Okay, so this one, I'm actually picking out the cover, not the original. Now, the original is by Eddie Cochran, but I'm picking out The Who doing Summertime Blues. And in particular, I'm taking the version taken from the Live at Leeds album because it references the original in so much it's pretty much the same song, but I think The Who's sound really works well with this particular song.
I could be wrong, but didn't there's a country artist who did a version of it too. Alan Jackson did a version, I thought. Maybe it's a different song. By the same name.
Possibly. I'm not super familiar with Alan Jackson. I didn't listen to any country music before I started living here 10 odd years ago. And all my knowledge of country music comes from playing in bands since I've been here.
It's a song, I'm gonna make a fuss, I'm gonna make a holler, right? I'm gonna say something shocking here. I grew up in a home that made me listen to some country music, 90s country. I think I know the Alan Jackson version better. I'm embarrassed to say that, but I do know all versions, and I actually know the Eddie Cochran version too. But I mean, I know that intro. I'm going to make a fuss. I'm going to make a holler.
Well, I know this song from when I was in Frequency. Well, I suppose I still am in Frequency in a virtual fashion, but when we was a gigging entity in Frequency, we often would do lots of gigs for the VW Beetle community. And we used to play VW Woodstock and VW Action and stuff. And anyhow, the VW Woodstock was a cool thing that they did 1 year only. They were asked to do it again, but they said they prefer it to be a one-off. And they really tried to channel the music of Woodstock and the peace and love and all that kind of stuff. So we had to put together a cover set which had some songs from that era in it. And one that we picked out was Summertime Blues, because the Who performed that at Woodstock. Yeah. And we learned and we played it. And once it was in the set, we actually decided we really liked it. And it ended up being a standard jam night song. And I think the offshoot band from Frequency, from the Ashes, I believe they still play it in their set to this day.
So I'm going to say that I'm going to say something, though. I understand why that works so well. That song has a great chord progression, has a great sound. It's fun. I see how it would transcend directly to the audience. I wonder, off the top of your head, Tim, what are the basic chords in that song?
It's easy. It's E, A, B, E. And then it's got where it goes to an A and back to an E.
Because it literally is the same kind of sound over and over and over again.
It's dead easy to play, but there's a certain simplicity to the power of it. And like you say, it's got those stops, and then it says, I want to tell you a song.
It's a guy talking to you. I'm going to make a press. I'm going to make a holler. Been working all day, so about dice and a dollar, mama and papa. It's very, I see how it would transit to a country song very well, but it's a very fun song. And you just reminded me, I haven't heard that song in a long time. And as soon as we get off the podcast, I'll probably get to listen to it because I haven't thought of it, heard it, whatever. You brought it back to my mind. It's a very fun song, and I see how it seems very summery to me.
There right on
brand. Right on brand.
Perfect. All right. So what's your next song that reminds you of the summer?
Mumbo Jerry in the summertime.
Well, do you know what? You mentioned that at the top of the episode, and in fact, I have that on my list as well.
Of course we did. Well, it's a great one. Okay, I'll pick another one. I'll go with Martha and the Vandross Heat Wave.
That is a fantastic song. But I was going to actually just go back to
you have something about Mumbo Jerry
in the summertime, okay. Because we'll get on to the other one that you just mentioned. But in the summertime, there's a great line in it. You talk about things that don't age well. There's a line that says, "Have a drink, have a drive, come and see what you can find."
And if her daddy is rich, take her out for a drive. And if her daddy is poor, you can do what you... Yeah, I know.
It doesn't age well at all.
No. And I know. Every time I hear it now, I hear, if her daddy is rich, take her out for a drive. If her daddy is poor, you can do what you like.
Yeah, it's terrible.
What? That's one of the worst. And the worst part is growing up, it's one of those things that we talked about how you don't always pay attention to what they're saying in a song. So when you're younger, you're like, this is a great song, And I heard that song 1,000 times. I can even see him in that maroon suit coat. And, he's got that distinct hair.
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but it's a very distinct look on his face. If you've never seen Mumbo Jerry in person, he looks exactly like somebody whose name Mumbo Jerry would be. I'm just going to leave it at that. And that's rough too. And I'm glad you said it because every time I hear that line now, my eye twitches a little bit.
And as I said about 4 or 5 episodes back, my uncle used to live in Germany when he was alive. And I think in the same town or the town down from where he lived, the singer of Mungo Jerry lived there. And they'd see him around. I mean, if I'd have known back last time I went there, which was probably late 90s, I suppose, I would have said, "Oi, Mungo Jerry man, come here and be accountable to your lyrics."
So I will say something, if you guys did not know this. Mungo Jerry Tizzler. So if anybody is familiar with musical theater, that's going to make sense. His name comes from Mungo Jerry, comes from it in the Broadway version of Cats. It's a T.S. Eliot poem, Mungo Jerry Tizzler. It's talking about Mungo Jerry Tizzler. And so in Cats, have these. I was in Cats the musical. I was Jenny Annie Doss, but there's a whole section on that, and that's where the guy got his name from. There's facts for you guys.
There we are. That's another fact for all you listeners out there.
And it's from T.S. Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. Did you ever watch Cats, the Practical Cats? That's the thing. That's where they got it from. So anyway, that's where he gets his name from. That's why it sounds weird. I don't know. Do you know what his real name was, Tim?
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever heard it.
It's probably Colin Smith or something like that.
I mean, the chops alone.
Yeah, he had the greatest mutton chops.
You've never seen them.
In England, we had a TV show called Emmerdale Farm,
yeah.
And they had a what do you call it, pub in it called the Woolpack. And the guy behind the bar for the longest time, I mean, he's probably been dead 50 years at this point, but I remember this growing up, Amos Brearley. And Amos Brearley had the most amazing mutton chops. And he had a man that worked with him called Mr. Wilkes. Quite why I know all this stuff about.
So there's a lot to know there, bud.
A UK soap opera that was probably just on that my mother was watching. I don't know. But yeah, the famous Amos Brearley mutton chops at Mungo Jerry's were far more vibrant and dark.
So I looked it up. I gave it a Goog. Ray Dorset is his real name. And he still has slight mutton chops based off of these pictures on the Googles. They're not as intense and they're not all the way down his chin. But he does have mutton chops to this day.
Well, there we are. Is he still living in Germany, the next town down from my uncle?
I don't know. I didn't get that far in the Google world.
Well, that's fine. Maybe we'll leave that one out there. 75
years old.
Well, good on him. I'm glad he's still out there getting it done.
All right. I'm going to be thinking about that line because you had to say it. All right. So since we both said that other one, I mentioned the Heat Wave, which I'm sure you know, Martha and the Vandellas.
Yes.
As you know, it's a 1963 Motown breakthrough. I love Heat Wave, so.
Yeah, is it? That is a great song. I was listening to a whole thing on NPR the other day about Motown and Motown breakthrough artists and stuff, and that was one of the ones that came up. And that is a classic song. I think, isn't that the one where she didn't have too many other hits? Yes,
that's what I was getting ready to say. So that was one of their breaks. So Martha and the Vandellas had a really hard time finding a song that kind of picked, so we talked about in the previous Motown episodes, and this is where I have a big knowledge base. They had a factory of music making, right? Mm-hmm. Point A, point B, point C. They worked really hard. Let's say Smokey Robinson was writing the song, whoever was writing the song, just the first name that comes to mind. They struggled a lot to find their hit. They're amazing singers. They're amazing actors. Musicians. But Tim and I have talked about sometimes you don't have to be the best singer or even the best stage man or stage woman. You have to have a spark. You have to have a spark with that song. And they struggled a lot to find that. Martha and the Vandellas did. And this is one of their breakthrough. This was their breakthrough song, Heat Wave. And I mean, it's kind of ironic. It's like Heat Wave, burn. It's kind of like a song about breaking through. But anyway, this was that song that made it. I don't know who wrote it, but they went through song after song after song, and other songs they had produced ended up being given to or tried to record were given to other people in Motown because it just didn't work.
Yep. And I think the NPR thing I was listening to was alluded to all of that stuff. And as everybody knows, I listen to a lot of NPR.
Yeah, but what a great song, though, to have as your hit, because it came out in 63. It was kind of pre-disco, right? I say it's pre-disco, but It has a little bit of a Donna Summer kind of disco feel, and it's very intense. It plays to the Supremes kind of thing, too. Mm-hmm. And so it's a great song to be your breakthrough hit. That's just my opinion. And if you've never heard it, go listen to it, guys. They deserve to listen. So I imagine every person in the world has heard that song. I hope. I feel like it's one that plays all the time.
Exactly.
All right, Tim, what's your song?
Well, I was looking through my list and I was trying to pick the best next one, and I think I've got it. So this one, it's the summer piece is in brackets. And it's Meatloaf. You took the words right out of my mouth, and then in brackets, hot summer nights.
What a song choice, Tim. Why did you pick this one? What is it about summer that gets you at the Meatloaf?
Well, the thing that gets me about summer is it has summer in the title. That's the key deciding factor on me honing this one out of my music library. But I will say I do like the whole of Bat Out of Hell. The whole of Bat Out of Hell is a
great album.
It's a great album. And they made a Bat Out of Hell 2 and a Bat Out of Hell 3, and it was never as good. That first one is perfect. It's like music and lyrics by Jim Steinman. Meatloaf is singing, the production, everything is. It's a statement of 1977, and it's just a great album. And this song is a great album as well.
Well, and I absolutely love Meatloaf. I think his voice is fantastic. I think he's great on stage. I've heard like you said, we've talked a little bit. He's not aged well, and apparently he's like producing his own songs or something based off of what we've talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I listened to another great podcast called Rock Solid by a guy called Pat Francis, and that is a great podcast. And if you're looking for another podcast to listen to, I highly recommend it. And he has a funny thing every now and again where he'll be talking to a co-host or a guest, and then somehow he'll shoehorn Meatloaf into the conversation. And then he plays like this. He's got about 2 or 3 little drops he has of contemporary Meatloaf. And it's like, Mr. Loaf, I like to remember him for his glory years. I don't like to remember Meatloaf in this kind of... It's just like some singers, as they get older, continue to sound great. And then some singers, when they get older, they drop the key. Like Elton John will drop it down an entire tone. And it sounds a bit different, but he's still out there getting it done. Sammy Hagar does the same.
He's doing the modulating and it works.
Yeah, he's dropping the key down and he can still perform and it still sounds really good. Meatloaf, he's got this, it's weird. His vibrato has become a wobble. And it sounds like a bad karaoke singer is the only way I can describe it.
No one could see me do that, but I raised my hand like I know the answer. It's audio, guys. But anyway, what I was going to say, though, is I think there's 2 factors happening there. One, Meatloaf's still convinced that, because Meatloaf can, back in his day, he could sing great operatic tunes, right? Like he had
the power and the range of Meatloaf in peak Meatloaf is fabulous.
From a vocal coach or a vocal standpoint, where what he's done, he did what we've talked about, the Mariah Careys and stuff. He ruined his vocal cords. So by doing that and all that chest pulling, he's made his vocal cords so rough that you hear that wobble. That's his vocal cords rubbing together. It's not a vibrato. So if you're singing like a da, you want that sound, that vibrato sound, that's your mouth. Like you're doing that with your tongue or with your actual... Like that is all very front of your face sound to get that kind of sound if you want that vibrato. What he has done, though, is because he used to project so much and he used to be so intense to get those full vibratos, he's probably rubbed his vocal cords so much together they're raw. I don't know how to explain it. So when you hear like vocal cords knocking, that's people pulling chest voice to imagine it sounds too intense. It's too much. I say this, but Christina Aguilera is a good example of someone who maybe does it a little too much. Mariah Carey ruined her vocal cords. Of course, she says there's other factors in that. We're not going to get into it. But from a vocal cords, when you're learning to sing that vibrato, you're not supposed to sing it at the back of your throat. You're supposed to bring it at the front. Like you use your tongue and you use your actual mouth to make those sounds. But if you're doing it too much back here, it messes that kind of stuff up. And when you hear hardcore Meatloaf in his operatic days, the Dashboard by the Paradise Lights type stuff, it's almost like he probably just wasn't doing it the technical way. Whether that's right or wrong, he was getting what he wanted, but it probably in the long run has made him this what he is.
Yeah, and you throw in a bit of touring or lots of touring and the rock and roll lifestyle, and
I was going to say,
there you go.
drugs, alcohol.
I mean, I'm not implying what Mr. Loaf got up to, and if he did, that's his own business. But I mean,
It's a hard way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
There
A
you
long
go.
way. No, I mean, I have no idea. I've never heard anything about him having crazy. But I will say from someone who's taken vocal lessons, when they teach you that, it's the front. Does that make sense to him? It's more of the front of the mouth, not the throat
Sure,
to make
yeah.
those sounds.
100%.
And if you're doing it the other way, it doesn't. It can make for a rough time when you get older.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. You picked that song. All right,
Yes.
my song. Steal My Sunshine. Lynn, have you heard If You Steal My Sunshine? Have you heard that song, Tim, from the 90s?
No, I think it's the first stumping of the evening. I'm not familiar with that one.
Well, it's basically Summer Girls by LFO.
Oh.
But it's just the same kind of thing. But for me, as a 90s baby, it makes me feel it. He's like these little girls in the back going, if you steal my sunshine, make sure. That's how it goes. You can imagine. But for me, once again, they're probably on a boardwalk. There's probably some mopeds involved, some backwards hats. So for me, it's summer. All right. I don't know what more to say because Tim doesn't know the song.
No,
so what's your next one?
I was around. I was alive in the 90s. I listened to music in the 90s. It's just that some things got in there and some things were completely ignored. And also, I don't even know if that was a hit in the UK. So I don't know.
Well, it probably would have been like 99, 98. So it's hard to tell. But I mean, same deal. They're on mopeds. They're on a boardwalk. Somebody's hat is backwards and they're going, steal my sunshine. That's pretty much it. I don't really have to go into more detail. Married summer 90s.
There you go. Okay, so I've got one. So again, this is two versions of the same song, and I think I might pick the cover, though the original is equally fabulous.
Tim's got a lot of covers and originals here.
Yeah, Summer in the City, the Lovin' Spoonful, but also the other good version is the Joe Cocker version. I don't know if you're familiar with the Joe Cocker version.
I am, but I am a Loving Spoonful girl. I'm just going to say I'm original on this one, Tim.
Yeah.
I will. But it's not one of those songs that has like 47 different versions.
It's such an iconic song, and it wouldn't surprise me if lots of people have covered it.
I feel like I've heard it in movies dubbed by many different people.
Yeah, and because like the original has even got like traffic noises in it and stuff.
Yeah, they kind of like it's always like they're in New York City, they're hanging out their apartment windows, everybody's looking down on the hot times, summer in the city, back of my neck looking nitty and gritty, and there's always like cars honking, that kind of thing. And I could be wrong, but for me, that's a song that I associate with movies, kind of like We're the Kids in America. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like I've heard it a million times, and it's always that exact scenario. But it does make me think of summer because of that depiction. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a very summer song.
Yeah, I think if you think of iconic summer songs, it's certainly up there. But as I said, I really enjoy the Joe Cocker version too. I mean, the original is iconic, but I think Joe Cocker does a very particularly good version of it.
Yes, I mean, I don't really have a not like for it, but when I listen to it, I tend to listen to the Loving Spoonful version because Joe Cocker's kind of got a little bit more melancholy of a sound in general. That's what I kind of associate him with. And so I like the little bit more upbeat kind of, but you can almost hear, like, I don't know if this version exists, but I really wish it did. I can almost hear like a Martha and the Vandross or like a Supremes version of it. And I really think it could work.
Anyway, I mean, Summer in the City came out in '66, so it's possible that a Motown artist would have covered it.
I need to go look that up. If it exists, I'm going to give it a Google and I will post it on the Facebook. If it doesn't exist, I'm not posted on the Facebook, but I'm curious to know because think about from like an actual music side. So one of the things Martha and the Vandross did, or like the Supremes, they kind of built their sound. You know, there was like the main singer and the backup harmonies and that kind of stuff. It's like a built sound. So if you took that kind of sound and put it to one of those pop bands, I really think it could work. And it'd be a really cool dynamic. And now I wish I were alive in 63 so I could have told them to do that, but it doesn't matter. If there's somebody out there who has a female pop band that likes to do 60s covers, there's my idea for you. Please give me royalties.
Yeah, or if there's anyone out there with a time machine, equally.
Yes. If you have a time machine, we would like to know about that too, because we have a few people we'd like to go back and bring them on the podcast.
Or even, in fact, anyone that has a DeLorean. Even if you just have the car, it doesn't matter. That'll be fine.
You know what, though, Tim? I'm going to put that out there for any of you and Freak Jam people who like to put music out there. If there's someone, like, think of like the Jennies and the really good singers and like people like, I hate to say, like me, who could probably do backup vocals and like that would be a cool cover.
Yeah, I think it probably would
be. If
be.
you did like a 60s kind of, I don't want to say doo-wop because it's not doo-wop, but like a 60s kind of female girl group of that song, I think it would work.
I think it probably would.
Everybody out there listening, if you do that, if I hear it, I'm coming for you if you don't give me royalties. It's my idea. You heard it here first. No Name Music Class exclusive. Anyway, all right. I guess it's my song now, right?
Your turn.
Mine is another one that I have a very... when I was doing the kind of overplayed songs, this one came up a lot, but for me, it's not overplayed. It's an all-time favorites. It's Otis Redding, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
Yeah, now that is a great song.
It's a fantastic song. And while he doesn't say summer or hot or sunshine, I mean, he's sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. So I imagine it's going to be warm. Who sits on the dock of the bay when it's cold?
He's just sitting on the dock of the bay wasting time. I mean, he's got no commitments. It's probably nice and warm with a breeze coming in over the bay. And he's just sitting around watching the coming in and going out again.
So what's interesting about that song, at least for me, and maybe Tim could enlighten us on this, so that song, when you hear it, it sounds easy to perform as a singer, but there's a key change in it that's actually quite difficult. So like he's talking about, he's just doing his, but you hear the kind of background, but there's a part where there's like a key change, or so I have to look at the music, but there's a part in that song that if you don't sing it just right, it doesn't work. And Otis Redding's voice is so gorgeous. Like he's got this beautiful tone. I mean, it just works so perfectly, but that is a song. And I don't know if you know music like this, Tim, I'm sure you've heard it, that is misleading. And it sounds like it's easy to perform, but it is not.
Yeah, I mean, the chords all the way through is E, B, and C, and then to A, and then the bit you're talking about, the chord change, it goes to a G, D, and a C.
That's probably what it is.
It changes, and if you're not aware of that change being in there, because I've played it in bands. Where I've sat in on a dep gig where it wasn't my band and that was in the set, and then you think, oh, this is easy enough. I'm just looking at where the bass player's putting his fingers, and then it gets to that change, and you're like, that's a G then.
From a singer's perspective, what happens is the ear likes like easy transitions. They don't want you to transcend, that harsh, and if you don't expect it coming and you're not leading up to it, there's like a hard transition into that kind of sound from like a chest voice to a head voice to chest voice. I've talked about that a little bit. And so that is one song that I wish I sang better than I did. But for some reason, that change right there is hard for me as a singer. And I admit that. And so it's just very interesting because like we were talking about, he's sitting in the dock of the bay. It's just very easygoing. You think it's an easygoing song. I tell you, from a musician standpoint, it is not.
Well, that just shows what a great singer Otis Redding is.
It is, because his voice is gorgeous, but I mean, I don't think we have to tell everybody that. But to be fair, Tim, are there any other songs that are not like summer related? I'm just curious. Has there ever been a song in your mind you thought, oh, that's going to be super easy, and then you start playing, you're like, wasn't as easy as I thought?
It's hard to say because, I mean, I'm lucky that I'm at a reasonable skill level on guitar.
Okay, I'll pat you on the back later.
But, it's not so much when you're playing chords and stuff. If you can play all the chords on the guitar, or most of the chords, it's pretty much easy. Where it comes down to is if there's like a lead part that's tricky to get your head round, or a solo that's very iconic for the song that's hard to get your head round. I remember I struggled initially when I learned I Believe in a Thing Called Love, the Darkness song. Because often, like with solos, I just wing it and make it sound roughly the same. But those parts in that song are very iconic to how it sounds.
Yeah.
And then I had to really go away and learn all the parts properly.
And now that you say that, that makes sense because it's got that really distinct kind of pattern to it. If you're a big The Darkness fan, which me and Tim have both admitted we were, and I even could see the music video, the spaceship with the monsters. So I used to watch Fuse. I don't know if Fuse was a Europe thing, but it was an American thing. Fuse, whenever I came home from school, is where we watched our alternative rock from.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a good choice though, because now that I hear it in my brain, I know exactly what you mean because it's very distinct. And so if you were just a little bit off, it wouldn't quite work.
Yeah, and I also will say that song by Guns N' Roses, of which we will never speak again. I remember working that out years ago. I had the tab book. And for those who don't know, for people like me who can't read music, you have something called tablature. So you have the stave with the notes on, and then below it you have the 6 strings of the guitar, and it gives the fret number.
That's how I learned to play like when I was taking like my basic guitar lessons, that's what I learned on.
Yeah, so I had the tablature book for that, and I remember working out all the solos and the riffs and everything like that. And it took a while to get it, but I eventually got it. But it's now seared in my brain, so I don't ever have to relearn it. But I seem to remember at the time never having played anything like that before. It was tricky to work it out initially. But as I said, playing in 101 bands, anything with chords in it, it's not super tricky. It's not super tricky at this point.
Okay, Tim. Well, I'll pat your back later. I'm kidding. No, I was just curious if you ever thought about that. And I mean, to be fair, I'm sure there's always going to be a song you don't know that's out there that if I put it in front of you, you'd be like, okay, that's a little tricky, but you'd probably pick up on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's guitar techniques that I really can't do. I can't do sweep picking. I can't do that. And like the two-handed tapping thing, I can sort of do it of a fashion, but, I can't do it as well as an Eddie Van Halen could do it. But I mean, there's guitarists. I mean, in the London scene, like Nick Andrew. I mean, like the techniques that he does, and the virtuoso level of those techniques. Yeah, I can't even begin to approach the level of virtuoso-ness that he has with those. It's
kind of interesting that this episode, between the singing techniques and the guitar techniques, has became a very nerdy music episode. All right, Tim, because I spoke very heavily about Meatloaf and all that stuff. And then anyway, Tim, what's your song?
Well, I was going to say, by this point, we should be discussing the merits of a reclining sofa or something. I mean, we've swayed from our normal things.
I know but what's weird is this episode, we've talked more about music than I think any other episode. Usually it's like, what color is pop? I don't know. Something color. I don't know. It's just something weird.
Joy, it's the Christmas episode. All of our fans are probably listening to this on Christmas Eve or maybe Christmas Day. They're tucking into their turkey or tofu turkey or whatever they eat. And, the Christmas tree is twinkling away over there in the corner. And they're watching James Bond reruns on the TV. And they thought, we're going to tune in. And maybe this episode they'll be talking about music for a change and not talking about gas ovens or traffic lights or something like that.
Well, if you guys haven't heard it, and this is the Christmas episode, I challenge you this. Go listen to Christmas Rapping by the Waitresses. Best bass line, best horn solo of any Christmas song, period. Best Christmas song, period. Do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say if you're listening to this on Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, as you're unwrapping your presents, put Christmas Rapping by the Waitresses on. It is by far the best Christmas song of all time. Bar none, in my opinion.
110%. I can't go without it. And the bass line in it is so good. There's literally a horn section in it. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. But then the way it's just like the kind of the back and forth of the rhythm of this. Anyway, go listen to it. All right, Tim, what's your summer song?
Okay, back to the theme of summer. So this is a song which is incredibly overplayed. It's probably on the list of those classic rock radio station songs they play every 15 minutes. It's also a song I've played in 101 bands, and I'm probably sick of playing, though I don't think I've played it in a band since I've lived here.
Okay.
And that would be Bryan Adams' Summer of '69.
So you wouldn't say those were the best nights of your life?
No.
Or days or whatever that open line is. I mean, it's overplayed, but like I don't hate it as much as say like we were talking about Sweet Home Alabama earlier. I don't rank it up there with those.
No, and I think my perception of it being overplayed is just that every cover band in the UK plays it, and maybe that's where that comes from. Because I think, actually thinking about it, since I've lived here, I haven't really heard it a great deal.
I mean, you can hear it on the radio if you're listening to like in one of those 60s, 70s, 80s Q99 kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Type of, for people who don't know, Q99 kind of plays like a mix, an area of 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, I'd say. It's just like that kind of general mix. So you don't know exactly what you're getting. I mean, for me, that I bought my first 16, bought it at the 5 and dime. I've heard it a million times.
Did you play it till your fingers bled?
I did.
That was in
and
the
those
summer
were the best nights of my life.
Yeah. Me and some guys from school, we had a band and we tried real hard. Jimmy quit.
Jody got married. Should have known we never would get far, Tim.
I mean, I'm not even a singer and I know all the lyrics to this song. I mean, it's like seared in my head.
But Tim, there ain't no use in complaining when you got a job to do. Sorry, I couldn't use it. No, I mean, I do know it very well. And actually, it's probably the most known Bryan Adams song I know off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, there's Cuts Like a Knife and Can't Stop This Thing We Started and Heaven and Everything I Do It For You and 10 others.
That one I've tried to mentally block out because it's absolutely over the top and I can't stand it. But anyway, but yes, it cuts like a knife and it feels so right. I know. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it probably is overplayed, but it's not as overplayed as like some of the Guns N' Roses, Led Zeppelin journeys of the world.
Oh, absolutely not.
I mean, it is about summer.
There you go. See, it's how incredibly summery it is.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. He had a guitar and he played real hard.
Yeah, there you go.
And Jody quit and Jimmy got married. Should have known we'd never get far.
There we go.
This is the episode that's going to get me and Tim copyrighted. Bryan Adams is coming for us. All right, it's my turn.
Yeah, I think we'll end it on your last summer pick. There you go.
Well, I'm going to go with the cliche one too, since we will with the cliche one there. It's Vacation by the Go-Go's.
There we are. A classic summer hit.
It is. And I actually knew someone once, and I've stole this from them now. Whenever I worked at a previous employer, I wrote somebody and they were on vacation. And their away message just said, vacation all I ever wanted, vacation all I ever needed. And it didn't say anything else. And I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, normally it says, I will be out of the office until blah, 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 December. If any inquiries, please contact so-and-so, so-and-so with an email address. I mean, that's a little bit more creative, it's fair to say.
Exactly. I absolutely adored that. And so now I will add that at the end, but I will just be like, whenever I went on vacation, when I was in Greece a few years back and I was sitting my list of things for people to cover, I put a little picture of someone on vacation and the headline said, vacation all I ever wanted, vacation all I ever needed. And then I put the details, but I, to this day, remember. And the funny part is you would think that like, oh, well, why did he say anything else? No, I was like, well, he's obviously on vacation. We'll get his attention. I'm like, that was a really good use of an out of office message. Yeah, so he used the Go-Go's.
Fantastic. Well, good deal. Well, okay. Well, we'll wrap this episode up. Once again, we want to thank you for all your support this year, for listening to the show. We are growing listeners all the time, and it's you, the folks out there listening, are responsible for that. So thank you. We once again want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Winter Solstice, New Year. Whatever you celebrate, if you don't celebrate at all, we want to wish you glad tidings. It's Christmas Day tomorrow, so enjoy opening your presents around the Christmas tree. I'm sure your houses are already smelling of turkey or tofu turkey or whatever you eat and celebrate with.
Yay. And as always, we're so happy. This has been one of the funnest things I've done. I don't know. I'm just going to do the whole New Year's Eve reflection because we're almost there, right?
Yeah.
This has been one of the funnest things I've done. Me and Tim never in a million years thought we would have people actually listening all over the world. We never thought that people would make bingo cards and people would write us. And we've had, I would say, Tim, I don't know about you. I know you played in bands and everything. This is a different level of fun. We enjoy it. We will plan on keep doing it if you guys will just stay with us. Sometimes we're silly. Sometimes we talk about roundabouts and how guitars work and everything under the sun. But we really are at the core of us just music lovers, and we hope you guys are enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like as I said, I've performed in bands for years and years and years, and I never thought I would be a broadcaster of sorts. But I mean, this all came about of a conversation that Joy and I had in our break room in our office, and we used to just talk about this stuff anyway. And we thought, well, let's just capture this on tape and share it. So we made it a thing, and here we are. And thank you.
So with that, we hope you guys have a great holiday season, and we'll see you next year.
See you later.
I said it. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
To remind me of another day to